in our industry and in the note investing space, it's a small world. We all know each other, all of us. And at one time or another, we can be competitors with each other. We can be counterparties on a transaction, or we can be collaborators and partners on a deal. Any of those scenarios, and it changes. And so it is a very collaborative environment, and having those relationships, that is key. It's one of the key skills that I think is necessary for any investor, and it doesn't matter what space you're in. That is something that will always serve you well.
Are you a real estate investor looking to break into the multifamily investing space? Have you heard of MFIN Con happening in Charlotte, North Carolina, June 23rd through the 25th? The Multifamily Investor Nation Convention is a place to learn from over 60 plus high-level apartment investors and also to network with over 700 investors. If that's not enough for you, Shaquille O'Neal, Barbara Cochran, and Jocko Willink will be live and in person speaking at this event. Be sure to secure your tickets to this live in-person event, as the tickets are going fast. You can even upgrade your ticket to the VIP to have the opportunity to rub shoulders with these high-level speakers, including myself, after their session. Jocko Willink will also be attending the VIP party on Friday night at the event. So go to mfincon.com to find out more details. There's also sponsorship opportunities available too. For details for this event and to purchase tickets, visit mfincon.com. Use promo code LIFEBRIDGE to get $200 off your tickets. That's mfincon.com.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Sam Rust. Joining us today on the podcast is Fred Moskowitz. Fred is an educator, author, and public speaker who's trained countless investors from all walks of life on how to create passive income streams. And as a fund manager, Fred manages a mortgage note investment fund and is considered an industry veteran within the note vesting arena. Fred teaches the concept that individual investors are able to step into the shoes of the lender through note investing and effectively be the bank. Fred, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Fred, we were talking a little bit off air about your background in the industry. You started investing in notes in 2010, which no matter what inning you think we're in right now of the real estate growth cycle, that was the very beginning innings and maybe one of the best times to be investing in notes. But maybe talk a little bit about your career before you got into note investing and happened across that unique asset class.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. So I'll tell you, it's been really interesting career for me. And I had a very long, successful career. I was working as a computer engineer and often working at different technology startup companies. But what happened was, after I watched my industry get turned completely upside down with the bursting of the dot-com bubble and followed by the 9/11 attacks, and all of that made me realize that I was way too dependent on the income for my job, right? And it was a great job. I loved what I did, but it was a job that was full of all of these circumstances that were completely out of my control. And what I realized, that no matter how talented of an engineer I was or how valuable of an employee I was, if things were not going well in the economy, in the industry, or at the company, that I could lose my job for no fault of my own. And so that made me come to the realization that I needed to find other sources of income so that I wouldn't be dependent on the paycheck for my job. And with that, I started looking into real estate. I started with rental real estate and built up a portfolio. And I really liked the idea of owning assets that would generate income for me. And a number of years later, I had the opportunity to get involved in notes. I learned about it through my real estate education, but never really saw it close at hand at scale. It was sitting in a real estate seminar, a weekend education seminar being taught by Jimmy Napier, who was, I consider him the granddaddy of note investing. But he came to our real estate group to teach about negotiation skills and do a workshop on that. And as you would know, when you attend workshops and seminars and the instructor gets a little off track and starts telling stories, that's exactly what happened. And he was teaching, he talked about note investing. He said, look, real estate is a great place to build up capital, my attention. And then I later on had the opportunity to get involved in acquiring notes. And that's how it all started.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's interesting how a lot of times the value is in the margins, right? It may not even be something that's the headline at a seminar or a training event, but it's just in being around somebody who has a lot of different skills, is teaching on one in particular, and then opens up a world to a whole new way of thinking.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much about the environments you put yourself in and the people you surround yourself with, because you get exposed to all of these different concepts and ideas. And that's what expands your mindset and your knowledge base, and learning new skills, seeing where there might be a particular opportunity in the marketplace that was not there in the past due to a market cycle shift. It's all of that. And when you can recognize that and step in and know that this is time to get involved and get aggressive, it can really benefit you.
So you start investing in notes. 2010. At what point did you start considering raising a fund to go invest in notes and do it at a little bit larger scale? What was that evolution like for you?
It took quite some time. I was doing really well as an individual investor, being active in the business, working with my own capital, my own credit, doing wonderfully with that. And what was happening, and I'm sure many investors listening that are familiar with syndications, starting real estate syndications, people they like hearing about what you're doing, and conversations start to happen like this. Hey, Fred, I love what you're doing with notes. It's a great asset class, but it seems like it's a lot of work. And I don't have time to do that. Can I put money with you to invest with you and have you do this, buy notes with my capital? And so for many years, I didn't do it. I said no. I realized that I knew enough to know that you can't just take money from people. You have to have a properly structured private offering and get all that set up. And so I never did that. And so I knew that I couldn't work with outside capital, that it wouldn't be the right thing to do. But eventually this kept coming up over and over and over again. And so I realized that, hey, maybe this is telling me something. I should really look into this. And so I decided to put together my first fund, and it went really well. And it was a lot of work, right? As many of your listeners know, what goes into setting up a offering, doing a private placement for the first time, working with the securities attorney, doing all the compliance stuff. It's a lot of work, right? And like anything else, the first time you do it, it's hard. You make some mistakes, some missteps. Things take twice as long as you planned and maybe cost twice as much. All of that comes into play. But it's been a wonderful journey, and we've had a good run. And one of the most rewarding things that I found is working with investors and building those relationships. Because when you take an approach like I do, this is my own personal philosophy, is I seek to build relationships, long-term relationships with investors. And when you do that, you may do a deal together or transaction together, and that's great. But then when it's done, they're going to come back. And the next question is always, hey, this was great. What's next? What's the next thing? And so that can turn into a very long-term, long-term relationship between you and other investors. And that is so powerful.
So, we get this question quite a bit in our business. We're also syndicating multifamily. So a little bit different asset class, but real estate, the structure is the same. Essentially, We're taking investors' money, right?
Yes.
And people will ask, how do you sleep at night? And I'm curious for your answer to that question, because there's a lot of people that don't want to take on that level of risk. You touched on investors who often don't want to put in the time, but there's also an element of risk to it. How do you sleep at night?
There's always an element of risk with any kind of investment, any kind of asset class. And a lot of it comes down to your skill set, your level of experience and expertise, and the relationships that you have. And that's what gets you through when there's a problem, when things don't go exactly as planned. Because let's face it, a lot of investors love hearing about how things are going to go when things go as planned and profits are coming in. But the real powerful question is, what are you going to do when things don't go well, right?
Yeah.
And when you have a strong foundation that sets you up for success to be able to work through issues, because things will come up. There'll be a deal that goes bad, right? Especially in notes. We buy pools of notes. They're very large, and not every single note is going to work out in a profitable way. And that's understood up front. And so it's about managing the pool of assets. It's about the relationships that you have, because if you have a problem, you have a whole network of individuals that can support you, provide guidance, provide advice and expertise. And that is what gives you, as an investor, confidence and stamina to work through problems, to show up for work on the days where it gets hard and things are not pleasant, and keep pushing forward. Because like anything else, investing is a long game. And if you go into it with the long-term mindset, you're going to do really well over time.
That is certainly true. Would you have a story from your history of where maybe things didn't go quite as planned, how you pivoted and overcame?
Here's a perfect example. In the last couple of years in the note industry, it's been getting, and I'm sure you can relate to this, it's become very difficult to acquire assets, to buy notes. There's a lot of demand. There's a lot of larger players getting into the space, as well as you can imagine, there's lower level of problems, of defaults in the marketplace because of the real estate market. And so the demand for notes is very high. Pricing is high. Yields and returns are getting squeezed a bit. And so it's been very difficult. And one interesting thing that I saw happen in the beginning of the pandemic was there was a liquidity issue, and a lot of larger note funds were getting lines of credit called due and all these things. And it caused a lot of notes to get released into the secondary market. And we were pretty well positioned. But one of the best things that was a surprise that happened was there was a transaction we were not involved with, but I got a phone call at the 11th hour saying, Fred, we have a multi-party transaction that's getting ready to close, and someone backed out. They backed out. They got cold feet. It's the pandemic. There's a lot of liquidity issues. And are you interested to step in to this deal? And that was definitely an unplanned opportunity that came up. But why did I get that phone call? It's because of the relationships I have and the reputation in the industry, all of these things, because when people know you and they'll call you because they know you can perform and perform well, that's going to put you in front of a lot of opportunities. And I know this happens a lot in the multifamily space where you guys are active. You get this same situation comes up, and it's all about building those relationships. And doing that, it comes down to this. You have to do that work all the time when it's not needed. It's like digging your well when you're not thirsty. You never know when there's going to be an opportunity for you that comes into play. Or it might be the other way around. It's an opportunity for you to serve someone else and help them in a time of need. And when you can do that and build relationships, lots of opportunities come out of that. So that was one of the most unexpected and surprise that has come up recently.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Definitely important to always be networking and always be performing, whether you're dealing with brokers or, intermediaries on the buy side, on the sell side with your investors. Consistency is the key. People need to know that they can count on you, that they can, there's a trust factor that's built. It's hard to create a good reputation, but it's very easy to lose it.
That's so true, Sam. It's very easy to lose it. And in our industry, in the note investing space, it's a small world. We all know each other, all of us. And at one time or another, we can be competitors with each other. We can be counterparties on a transaction, or we can be collaborators and partners on a deal. Any of those scenarios, and it changes. And so it is a very collaborative environment, and having those relationships, that is key. It's one of the key skills that I think is necessary for any investor, and it doesn't matter what space you're in. That is something that will always serve you well.
Oh, that's certainly true. So, you're in the note industry adjacent to multifamily. You're essentially functioning as a syndicator. What's a way that you've improved your business or tweaked your business a little bit that's provided dividends over the last 12 months or so?
A lot of it is looking for operational efficiencies with our vendors, our vendor partners. We've certainly looked for opportunities to consolidate down our vendor relationships because it's super important. They are critical to doing well in this business, to being able to scale. Just as an example, loan servicers. Loan servicer, if you want an analogy for real estate, the same way a property manager is going to manage a rental property for you, the loan servicer does a lot of the hands-on managing a note for the investors. And so they're really set up to work at scale and handle a lot of the compliance that comes into play and take care of all of that. And so we seek to place our loans with multiple loan servicers. A lot of it depends on the type of note that it is. Some are better, some loan servicers are better at one note than a type of note than another. And so we look at that and really seek to set up some operational efficiencies, and then building relationships with those vendors. That has gone a long way for us. Same thing on the legal side, right? In the note industry, we need legal counsel and attorneys in every state where the notes are located, where the properties securing those notes are located. So we end up building out a national network of legal counsel and firms. And so it's working with them, looking for ways to consolidate and be more efficient. That has really helped us keep operational costs down and be more efficient and more nimble, so that when an unexpected opportunity comes up, we're ready to move on it, and we can do so very quickly, engage the right vendor support that we need for a particular transaction, and then go ahead and hit the ground running.
Fantastic. I was noticing on your LinkedIn profile, you tend to be somewhat active there. You're posting a variety of resources, tools for folks, as well as some motivational quotes. I wanted to wrap up the interview by turning one of the questions around on you. You quoted Ralph Waldo Emerson, says, "The world makes way for the man who knows where he is going." Where is Fred Moskowitz going over the next year or so?
I love that question. It's so important for everyone. Know what your purpose is. It's been said before, the two most important days in anyone's life are one is the day they're born, and then the second day is the day you discover your purpose and know what that is. And so my purpose is to impact people in a very positive way. And I seek to do that through numerous means, right? It might be investors that we're working with and benefiting. They benefit financially and benefit from the relationship. But also it could be educationally. I speak and teach a lot on numerous topics on investing in general and note investing, of course, as well as to be inspirational for younger folks, to get them involved in investing, to get them interested in entrepreneurship. maybe starting their own business. It's so rewarding. One of the most rewarding things that I've found is to have someone come to me and tell me that they were impacted by something I said or something they learned from me. And it might have been sometimes many years ago, but I just love that. And that's what motivates me more than anything else is being able to touch the lives of others and have a positive impact that way.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Fred, I really appreciate you joining us on the show today. Where can folks get in touch with you if they want to learn more about investing in notes and what you're doing?
Great. So a couple ways to connect with me. Certainly can visit my website, fredmoskowitz.com. If anyone's interested to learn about note investing, you can also visit giftfromfred.com, and I'll be happy to send a special report about note investing. And another way, if you prefer using your mobile phone, you can text the word money to the phone number 215-461-4433 and just follow the prompts, and someone from my team will get back to you. And I always love speaking with other investors and networking and building relationships. So I really look forward to connecting with you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Fred. Thank you to our listeners for joining us. This is your host, Sam Rust, signing off.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for being a loyal listener of the show. Please subscribe and share it with your friends. We want to help you become the passive investor you've always wanted to become, but also the operator you've always wanted to become. We want to be the #1 resource for your real estate investing journey. But go to lifebridgecapital.com where you can start investing in real estate today.